This session is part of the Educate International Conference of 2024 and is hosted by Educate, the Belgian platform for international education and training in development cooperation. It is made possible with the support of VVOB, APV and the Belgian government. Today's session is about technology as a support for education, and it is organized by two organizations. We have EdukoMondo on the one hand, and on the other hand we have Close the Gap with the support of Media Matters for Women from Sierra Leone. This session is part of the full conference of Educate, the International Conference of 2024, which began earlier this morning with a more general session. Both organizations, so both EdukoMondo and Close the Gap, will elucidate their initiatives and activities today, and this session as a whole will last 60 minutes. I also want to warmly welcome everyone joining us online virtually today. To all of you, if everything is going smoothly, you are seeing a screen with all the general instructions once again. Please take your time to watch everything through. This will enable us to have you follow this session the best way possible. Do also feel free to add all or any question you may have in the chat box. Our colleague Lisa is monitoring this chat box as we speak, so we can further follow up on your questions during the Q&A sessions after each presentation. I'm also, of course, very happy to introduce myself to all of you. My name is Leen Jongbloed. I am project coordinator at Close the Gap, and so I'm a colleague of one of our speakers today. And I'm very glad to be here today in this session and to be your guide and moderator. Lastly, I'd like to say it's 2 p.m. and we're about to it's 2 p.m. Brussels time. We're about to get started. But lastly, before we do so, I'd like to again kindly invite you to share all your experiences on today's conference, or maybe just your favorite moment of today, by using the hashtag #EdTech4Inclusion online. In that way, we can inspire further conversation on social media. Now, off to our first presentation. We have Peter Strebus here today. Peter is founder of the organization EdukoMondo. EdukoMondo is a tech for good startup that brings digital education to students and teachers in remote areas. In his case, on Steamifying the classroom beyond technology, Peter will challenge common perspectives about online learning. He will further also invite you to positively rethink forms of learning and the possibilities of being a teacher for change. I'm wishing you all a very interesting session, and I'm happy to give the floor to Peter.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leen, for this nice introduction, and welcome everybody to our session. So this morning we had quite some really impressive speakers, so we have big shoes to fill to continue in the afternoon. This morning it was all about the more general approach on policies and recommendations and the dangers and the good things about artificial intelligence predominantly. These afternoon sessions are actually going one step deeper. What's happening in the field? What are we actually doing in the field? And the field is the world, actually, the broadest in the broadest sense. So my presentation is called Steamify Your Classroom, and it is based on very recent experiences with giving STEAM lessons to a cohort of 20 teachers from India, from Thailand, and Cambodia and Oman. So 20 teachers with not always a technical background, but have been physical teachers from physics, chemistry, computer sciences, and so on. And they all wanted to get a more holistic view on their field incorporated within STEAM. So I can start by explaining what STEAM is. Now, the reason why you're all here, I assume that most of you, if not 100% of you, know what STEAM stands for. Nevertheless, it stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And it is an all-encompassing way of presenting, of teaching these otherwise individual aspects of our curriculum. It's not new, but you will not see it often incorporated in a curriculum as STEAM, not even in the most advanced countries, I would say, where the school system and even the university system is still focused on the individual silos. And we have encountered with those 20 teachers quite some very good, challenging and interesting experiences to see how all of these elements come together. So that's the STEAM, and within STEAM, even if you would ask 10 teachers what STEAM is, apart from explaining the acronym, they would also give you 10 different answers what exactly it is. So that's one thing. So in our case, framed in today's session, it's all about bridging the digital divide. So you can already hear it. It's very much focused on digital equipment, digitization, digital software, and so on. So it's really to look at how can we bridge the digital divide, which, by the way, even with artificial intelligence, is widening every day, because it's really about the have access to internet, to indeed the 92% English content that's out there in the World Wide Web. And those who do not have access. And I agree with the speakers of this morning that the connectivity will disappear. I understand that, and that's definitely going to happen. But when it's going to happen, that's still a big unknown. The technology is there, but there are other factors that often stop it. Now, within EdukoMondo, we have two elements that we are focusing on. On one hand, we provide solutions, infrastructure, so hardware, networking, that can be decoupled from the internet, so that we can actually give the promise of digital education without having the need of a continuous internet connection. I'm not going to talk about that today, but I'm going to talk about the content that we can deliver on it, and it is STEAM content. And the way that we deliver those lessons is by using what is called, the mighty microcontroller. So I'm not sure in the room everybody is aware what a microcontroller is, how it looks like. Thank God I brought one with me. And I will share it with you. You can make it go around if you want to. I'll give it to you and you can pass it on. There are two types. The bigger one is an Arduino. That's a brand, Arduino. It's very well known in the microcontroller world. I can see in the eyes that, yes, it's very well known. And the other one is a Raspberry. Some of you might recognize that name because of the Raspberry Pi, which is a microcomputer, different than a microcontroller, but we're not going into all of these nitty-gritty details. So what does a microcontroller do? A microcontroller is actually the in-between, call it an interface of sensors, and a sensor can be temperature, humidity, a gas, it can be an input that you do via your keyboard. On that microcontroller, you run a program that is either C, C++, or Python, MicroPython. Python is a key programming language for artificial intelligence, and some other programming. And then there is an output, and that output is either you run a motor, you turn on a light, you use a relay, or you show something on a screen. Why is this important? Because the microcontroller, if you have a 3D printer, for instance, well, chances are that the 3D printer is actually driven, controlled by such a microcontroller. If you have an advanced coffee maker, that's connected to the internet, microcontroller. If you have your sensors outside your house that you see if you're approaching your house and the porch opens, it's a microcontroller. So microcontrollers are all around us, and it's part of what is called the Internet of Things. Now, why is this important? Because it generates, or it captures a lot of data. And you heard this morning, data is actually the currency of artificial intelligence. So you can see it starts to become a coherent and logical connection. Now, the microcontroller, what is the advantage? It is very, very cheap. The ones that you will see, the bigger one, it costs something around maybe 10 euros, probably less. The Raspberry Pi is even cheaper. It's probably 6 or 7 euros. It's what is called open source hardware, which means that you can buy it in China for probably a tenth of the price. And they are of good quality. So that's is quite important. So you do not need in your classroom any expensive, huge investments. And they last forever, unless one of your students is, of course, short-circuiting them, and then the thing is gone. But it doesn't really matter because it's only a couple of euros. But they are very, very sturdy because they are being used in quite stringent environments also to capture data in real-life environments. So that's the mighty microcontroller, so a very small device, and you can teach your students all about data capturing, dealing with data, and actually doing an output. And this is really what is the basis also of innovation. Because think about an electric car or a car with sensors that is doing half automatic driving. It captures all the time data. It analyzes all the time that data. And it's actually going then to give an output. It's going to stop, or it's going to accelerate, or it's going to slow down without you doing anything. All of that is organized and controlled by these microcontrollers. And as I said, it's readily available, it's globally available. Now, the case that I want to present today is the case of these 20 teachers who wanted to include this in their lessons as a basis for learning science, because there's a part of science, a part is technology, a part is engineering, some arts, and some math in the programming. So the target audience that we had in the first place are those teachers, but the same content can be applied also to students. And the students, the level of the students or the age of the students that we have been targeting at is around between 10 and 14, 15 years old. I always use ages because in different countries they have different systems and gradings and so on. But of course the age is more or less the same in every country. Because the idea is that we have to train the teachers to be able to actually give those lessons to their classroom. So they need to get some pedagogical insights, tips and tricks. They need to get some information that they can use in their classroom. Okay, so how did we actually do those lessons? I've got the what, the how, and the why. The what, how did we present them? So it was always with questions. So we asked questions to generate and to see if they grasped the knowledge. So that were kind of typical multiple choice questions or open questions. They had to apply, so they had to make a project, so with an LED or with a sensor on those microcontrollers, and showed that they actually grasped the concept of those lessons. And then we also did challenges. Every 5 lessons there was a challenge where they had to incorporate whatever they have learned in a bigger project, and sometimes with some elements that they had not yet seen. So just to make sure that they were able to grasp and to apply it in a more interesting way. Now, the success that we've had is specifically in the how that we had delivered those lessons. So you have to look at the fact that we created a series of lessons, video lessons, about 2021, going from getting started to actually making a full project, which was an offline weather station that captures temperature, humidity, barometric pressures, and shows it on an LCD display. So going from a simple LED all the way to a more complex one, which is great for classrooms because it's really what I want. So we used a flipped and blended approach. So it was a flipped classroom, which means that they had to learn it on themselves. And every week for 3 months, every week we had a 1.5 to 2 hour call with the teachers to exchange ideas. What were the issues that they encountered? What was the solution? Maybe they came up with a new nice software solution or a programming solution. So it was a very nice interactive way of doing it. And it was also blended, so flipped classroom and blended because it was online and offline. The most important thing that we have done is we put a lot of support in place. So you've seen some of the numbers with MOOCs, so a lot of MOOCs, but we know that they have very, very little success rate. We had a very high success rate, and I will come to that in a minute, because we had a lot of support. A WhatsApp group, we had support on all kinds of elements that we wanted to give them. We also had a platform where they all could be watching the videos, and we were showing what they were doing. And we also support multiple languages. Why do we do it? Innovation, career continuous professional development, also SDG support, because a lot of the SDGs solutioning is based on technology, so we immediately ingrained that into their ideas. And also because we were looking at skills of the futures, working together, critical thinking, communication, and doing all of these elements together. I get a sign that I have to shut up, so I will very quickly go to the last one. The key takeaway was that we had a success rate, and I know it's a cohort of only 20, but still, 60% of them actually achieved the target and got their certification, which is very, very high. There are not a lot of research, as we also heard this morning. Now, the one that I did find was an MIT, Princeton, and Harvard research from a couple of years ago, which is really the only scientific paper that I was able to identify, where you could easily see that the success rate unpaid was 5%. When people would pay for it, it's 20%. So we were 3 times better with this cohort, and our target is actually to get to 75%. But the reason is that we put a lot of effort in the support on these things. So the peer support, very nicely, facilitators. The flipped and blended is something new for a lot of teachers. The platform that we developed is also something that we need to continue to develop. And yes, there was a certain price to it. So we charge with a complete kit, so with everything that I need to run the project, of $99 or 99 euros for everybody. So it's not that much, and you can do all of the lessons together with it. That's my case study, and I'll hand it back over. You will see on the website, if you download, there are some interesting links that you can have a look at in order to get some more information on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, and also thank you for physically introducing us to the almighty microcontroller. I'll now give the audience, both here present today as online, the opportunity to engage in further discussion. So if there are any questions, you can raise your hand. Yeah. I'll give you the mic.
Hello, Susan from EdukoMondo. I had a question. We're also interested in blended learning. I was wondering what your key learning points were during this entire process.
The key point is, as I said, it's something new. New in a way that the teachers, even if they talk about blended learning themselves, that they are not 100% used to. So it was a bit of a learning curve for them also to really understand what's happening. And the challenge, of course, because we were working across different time zones, that was not always easy to get everybody together. So sometimes there were people at 10 a.m. and sometimes at 10 p.m. At night. So that's one of the things with the online learning, of course, that you can see with blended. The second or the third challenge that we had seen is sometimes the motivation. That's why we put a lot of emphasis on the facilitators and the participation during the lessons. But we could see at the very beginning, so 20 lessons, 21 lessons to be precise, the first 3, 4, everybody was a bit, not very outspoken, but then it started to become more and more fluent, I would say. So that's really good. It's nothing different than a normal classroom or students or teachers alike. The fourth thing that we saw is that, and I want to repeat that as a message, is the peer group or the group and the peer help. You could immediately see almost like a typical classroom curve where you have the people who are really upfront and are really following all the lessons and are there and do all the tests in time. And then you have the ones who are lagging a little bit. And with the blended learning, this is even more apparent because you can see whether they have done the tasks or not. And when we were halfway, we could see that the better students, teachers, actually started to help the other students, teachers, who were not so good. And my key learning for the next cohort, which will start next month, is to put a lot more attention to that peer part in blended learning, because I think this is very important in blended, because you don't really physically see each other, just on the phone. And to see if we cannot bring that forward so that they start to help each other much faster, because that was very, very helpful. At the end, you could really see a very nice dynamic between the teachers. So there were like 4 or 5 key takeaways.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes?
No questions from the on the online? No? Okay, but we have a question
Hi,
here.
good afternoon. So I have a couple of questions, but I think the first one would be the teachers who completed the course, what are they doing now in their classrooms? Do you have any information about it? How have they integrated that into their classrooms with their students? Do you have any?
Yeah, so you've seen that in the slides. We work together with SteamCube. SteamCube is an Indian company, and and we work together to deliver the lessons. So one of the teachers has actually started implementing it in her school with 40 students. So she does exactly the same, but then towards the students. Also, the community in Oman, the teacher community in Oman, started to do that, but they are just starting it. So I cannot really give you any feedback. But the other 40 students, they are doing it. Interesting thing also, because it was mentioned this morning, because STEM and female teachers were not that well represented. In our cohort, it's the opposite. 90% were female teachers, and the school in which she is now doing this, one of the teachers, it's 50-50. So we really decided 50% boys and 50% girls. But definitely the teachers were almost all female teachers. But they started to do that, and we are following that quite closely, of course, how they are going to progress with that in their classrooms.
Some other questions? Yes.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a really nice case. This is, of course, on a small scale, and it's like an experiment, which is, it's a really nice practice. So I'm just wondering, do you see any approaches to scale this as well? And have you worked with the Ministry of Education as well to see how you can embed it maybe in what is already existing?
Yes, on everything. Yes. Let me first start with the ministry. So this system has now become part of the official curriculum that different schools in India can choose from. So apparently there's kind of a list that they can click on things. So Educate, so the general manager of Educate, Georgie Jacob, has good connections and knows how to do that. So it has become part of that curriculum. The second thing, in terms of the scaling, yes, we try to approach what we call the snowball approach. So we have now the 20 ambassadors, because we call our program the ambassador program. And the idea is that those ambassadors will now become facilitators for the next batches. So today we have 20. Assume that we have 10 who will become ambassadors. Each of those 10 will have, again, 20 teachers. Again, 10 out of them. So you will it's not 100% exponential, but it should grow quite quickly. And we have already seen that the teachers, not all of them, but out of the how much were they? The 60% of the group, half of them have already registered for the next curriculum and have already started to tell it to their colleagues in the different schools to register for the next cohort. So we believe that this can become more of a movement in that. Will it be 1 million? We don't know yet, but at least that's what we try to do. But the difficulty is to find good facilitators to actually build it, because in India the curriculum is far more advanced to introduce, for instance, artificial intelligence in every different aspect of the curriculum. But the lack of qualified teachers is, of course, hampering the full rollout of that. So we try to focus on the teachers first in order to make sure that there is sufficient support.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for your question. I think that it was a interesting question to end up this first presentation. So thanks again, Peter, for sharing your experiences with us. So for the second presentation, we are going to Africa, continuing with our next speakers, Marnik van Lee and Christiana Bangura. Marnik van Lee is project manager at Close the Gap, an international social organization that fights digital inequality by the provision of refurbished computer devices to social, medical, and educational projects in low-income and emerging countries. Marnik oversees the organization's major projects and initiatives, which are all focused on a more equal and inclusive digital landscape. We're also very happy to have Christiana Bangura joining us and intervening live from Sierra Leone today. Christiana is founder and director of Girls in STEM Initiative Sierra Leone and the STEM Empowerment Center. She further is the focal point for the organization Media Matters for Women, and an ICT facilitator for the Digitruck program in Sierra Leone. Through her activities, Christiana aims to break the gender stereotype gap in STEM and tech education for rural women and girls, leaving no one behind in the digital age. Together, Marnik and Christiana will shed light on Close the Gap's Digitruck program and on how it is empowering digital skills learning for young girls and female entrepreneurs in the most remote areas in Sierra Leone. So I'd say, Marnik and Christiana, over to you.
Thank you, Leen. Hi, everyone. My name is Marnik. Hello to everyone online as well. Leen already introduced me shortly. I'm a senior project manager at Close the Gap. I've been with the organization for 8 years now. And we work on digitalization in the broad sense of the word, but I think most of you know us from computer refurbishment activities, repurposing computer hardware in projects in the global south. And today I'll be presenting together with Christiana from Sierra Leone. I see the technical team shaking their heads. No, Christiana is currently not yet available. The connection is apparently not so well, so we'll see if we can bring her live on stage to the virtual platform. If not, then I'll try to replace her as good as possible. In any case, I'm bringing you the example of the Digitruck program. It's a program launched by Close the Gap already, I think, roughly a decade ago, and the very concrete case of the Digitruck program in Sierra Leone. Now, I will not go too much anymore into who we are. I'll later, after I've presented my slides, I'll either Christiana or myself will then introduce Media for Matters for Women. But what's important, I think, for the story of Close the Gap and how we came about the Digitruck program is that, again, we actually recover electronics from companies, government institutions here in Europe, globally, but mostly here in Europe, in order to refurbish that equipment professionally and then give it a second life in social, educational, and entrepreneurial projects in the global south. But for us to bridge that gap, there are quite some conditions to be met, mainly having electricity available, having connectivity ideally, having people who are skilled, who are experienced in using a computer and also teaching with a computer, which are two different things, as you can imagine. And so at a certain point, we realized that there was just, let's say, a fraction of the communities that we were trying to reach, that we were actually reaching. And that is how we basically came up with the Digitruck program. The Digitruck program, so the Digitruck itself is actually a converted and refurbished 40-feet container put on a truck chassis, basically, which we have converted into a mobile classroom, which allows us to go into very remote areas and offer ICT trainings, but also other types of trainings, as you can imagine. It's fully autonomous, so it has solar panels on top. It has an air conditioning unit inside, where applicable. You can equip it with laptops, with tablets, smartphones, but also VR glasses. It depends a bit on the functioning of the program. And we always engage with a local partner, obviously. I mean, Leen and myself are here in Brussels. Not much we can do to help or to teach there. So we always engage local partners to effectively bring the local curriculum or carry out a project that is very much in line with, let's say, the needs of the local community. The idea of the Digitruck obviously is that it's mobile, so it can drive around. It typically visits a certain community for a course, let's say a series of lectures, and then it moves on to the next community and introduces them to the project as such. There's room for 20 students at once and a teacher. We have different, I'll show some pictures later on, but we have different configurations depending on how the partner wants to carry out their program and what the needs of the community are. To date, we have deployed 14 Digitrucks, which have all been made in Africa by local partner organizations, mainly in Kenya nowadays. You see a couple of examples here. For example, their very traditional classroom setup here on the left below. They're seated outwards. You can also, for example, the Sierra Leone Digitruck has kind of a seating area in the back, which is like more of a coffee corner, with then a couple of desks to offer more formal education as such. And so, yeah, you can see on the map the different countries where we have already deployed Digitrucks. I think, as you can imagine, it's quite a costly investment to make as well. So it's unfortunately up to, let's say, to date, we've managed to build 14, mainly sponsored by corporate partners of Close the Gap and development organizations. But of course, we have the ambition to increase that number significantly over the coming years. Definitely, since we're also increasing our own presence and investments in Africa, we hope to increase that number tenfold. To give you an idea, that question might come up later. I think you should count around 50,000 USD for a Digitruck with the chassis and the container combined. And the nice thing is that it's fully in line with our vision of repurposing, in the sense that it's also a used sea container that we then give a second life, basically, in this model. Christiana, looking at the technical team in the back. No? Okay, all right. So Christiana is our partner in Sierra Leone, who's carrying out the Digitruck program there. We'll show you a video in a minute to give you a better idea of what this Digitruck program is just about, and let's say the impact that we're creating with this concept specifically in Sierra Leone. Christiana was also supposed to introduce you to the partner organization Media Matters for Women. It's really unfortunate she can't be here. She is in the field in Sierra Leone, which we thought was really cool to offer to you as an audience as a live testimony, but unfortunately that didn't work. So let me then dive into Media Matters for Women from the back of my head, or how do you say that in English? So Media Matters for Women is an organization. I think they were founded about 15 years ago. They work in Sierra Leone primarily. They're backed up by a team of volunteers and a board of trustees. But the impact is being made in Sierra Leone. It's a super cool organization. I came across them, I think, about 5 years ago when we at Close the Gap were managing the Digital for Development platform for the Belgian federal government, Department of Development Cooperation, and where we were organizing sessions, let's say informative sessions and inspiring sessions on digitalization, and where I came across doing some research on Media Matters for Women, because one of their primary projects is the development of podcasts in Sierra Leone to disseminate information to girls and women in particular, for example, on their rights, on female mutilation in a world and definitely a country that is very male dominated. They managed to actually work through citizen journalists that are being trained, that are being coached, and then that allow Media Matters for Women to actually create these podcasts that are disseminated to, I think, now 60,000 monthly listeners. So it's quite impressive. And that way they kind of try to make sure that the information that is getting to these girls and women is more reliable than what the government is sometimes telling people. They also engage, maybe it's not unimportant to note, they also engage with the male population. Obviously, there's quite some, definitely if you look at power structures, there's a lot of respect in local communities for the male prominent figures. So Media Matters for Women actually tries to kind of bring these men on board and actually use them as champions for the women population, so that they can again reinforce better circumstances for the ladies. What else can I add here? I'm kind of improvising here, people. I'll be honest about that. Of course, the Digitruck program there, we started that, I think 2 years ago now, with the support of ISOC, the Internet Society. ISOC. It's something with Internet Society Foundation, who financed the Digitruck construction as well as the program in Sierra Leone for a period of 2 years, I believe. We're currently going towards the end of the program, and we're going to we're actually in talks with them to extend the program as such. They have again financed the construction as well as the program, meaning that I mentioned before, looking at a cost of around $50,000. That's just for the construction. Then of course, if you're running a program for 2 years, you have to pay your trainers. You have to sometimes also provide for transportation for the people who are coming to the Digitruck for to follow the trainings, etc. So they were so kind to finance it, which is really nice. What else? Otherwise, I'll skip to the video to give you a view on that. Maybe one cool thing, the Media Matters for Women, they also have a podcast. I forgot the name, but they've been running for, I think, since the very start, for like 15 years. It's actually 2 journalists who have taken on this kind of fictional character, and for 15 years consistently, they've developed this narrative, like it's a soap series, basically, that every week or every month they bring, and of course they put ethical concepts into there as well, as it's quite educational. But for 15 years already, they've managed to kind of create this this fictional world of these two women, which is also quite cool. Alrighty, let's see if the partner video is willing to run. I assume I just have to kick it again. Yeah. There's also supposed to be sound on the video. No. Yeah, no. Okay. I believe we have put subtitles, so that's a very good thing. That's what it looks like. I think it's very. This is during, of course, when they when we imported it into Sierra Leone, and we're working on setting it up and equipping it fully. Things that we can source locally, obviously, we buy on the local market, but some things we also have to import, like computer devices that are coming from Close the Gap. These are AI-generated subtitles, by the way. It's very on topic. This is the seating area that I was referring to earlier. Africell is the one of the leading telecom companies in Sierra Leone who have sponsored the broadband for a period of 2 years, which is also very nice and something we always, let's say, a partner organization in every country where we work with the Digitruck program, we always try to engage, because it really helps in getting down costs and in also making sure we get a good internet connection. There are 2 different groups of people being trained in the Digitruck in Sierra Leone. On the one hand, the schools in the vicinity of the Digitruck pass by for digital literacy training there, basic ICT skills. And on the other hand, there's a group of, I think, 30 women entrepreneurs who are being trained and also helped in, for example, setting up their services and products online, in using digital tools for their bookkeeping or their accounting, doing digital marketing, these kind of things. So it's, that's why you also see different, let's say, profiles or different age groups in the video. All right, that was our joint presentation of Close the Gap and Media Matters for Women. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you have a lot of questions, because we still have 30 minutes, I see, so go ahead.
Add something very unfortunate that Christiana couldn't make it to join us today, but I see that Alina Callan, also from Media Matters for Women, she's following us online, so hi Alina, and she is referring to the podcast you addressed. It is called Mami and Omo. It is a radio drama produced every month to present practical issues of life in Sierra Leone, so I would say definitely go check it out on their website if you're interested in that. And so, yeah, apart from that, if there are any questions from the audience. I'm checking online.
Or from the online audience. Help me out here. Do you have a question for me, Lane?
I think I do. Marnik, how does Close the Gap decide where it deploys the Digitruck program exactly, and how much time does the Digitruck spend in each single community? How does that go about?
Yeah. The location depends a bit on the opportunity that arises for the financing of the Digitruck. I mentioned already the cost. We sometimes have corporate partners who finance the construction as well as the program of the Digitruck, and then they can indicate in which country or which region they prefer to have the project taking place. Sometimes we also rely on or tap into development cooperation funding, and then obviously it depends on the country where the intervention is taking place or is being financed. So it's really, it depends a bit on where we find the funds to build it, and then of course also the implementing organization that is identifying the needs of the local community and formulating the program that is going to be run in Digitruck, which is obviously the most important thing. And then on your second question on the communities there, mostly I mentioned already, so a couple of weeks training is given or offered to a certain community, and then the Digitruck moves on or is supposed to move on to a next community. Actually, that's I'm not going to declare that we thereby train people from A to Z in anything that they would like to learn on a computer. Obviously, that's a very big downside of this Digitruck program, I would say. However, our vision on this project is that it helps us also in showing to local authorities, local communities, the principals of schools surrounding at the location where the Digitruck is stationed for a couple of weeks, what the added value of the access to ICT is for their community and for their school. And so we hope that by bringing this truck there and showing what it can mean for the local community and for the children in the communities, that people will be convinced and might consider making the investment for effective the technology that would be most suited for the community, but that it helps in kind of convincing them that okay, this is actually really worthwhile. We really see the added value of investing in such a device rather than something else that they might want to invest in, such as, I don't know, a new playfield, which would also be great. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a matter of priorities, and I think this is a kind of a priority that we in Close the Gap believe in very much, and that we want to put forward as an alternative or as a valid opportunity.
Any other questions, Peter?
It's a bit more of a maybe logistics question, but how can an organization actually book space on the Digitruck? That's one. What's the price involved, if there is a price involved? And the third question: are they 100% utilized, or do you see that there are gaps or periods that they just stand there and nobody is using them?
Thanks, Peter. the let's say applying for use of the Digitruck, there's always a Digitruck manager locally who is the focal point of contact for any demands for the Digitruck to pass by a certain community. So what we do sometimes as Close Gap, we get a question, someone who saw a Digitruck passing by, or someone who saw it online and saying, hey, I want that for my community. Then we just refer them to the country manager of the the Digitruck. In this case, that would be Christiana, and they kind of arrange that between them. It depends a bit on who is funding the operation as such, whether that would be free of charge or whether there would be a cost involved. And then the costing itself is also very difficult to generalize, in the sense that the people that we're targeting here, definitely in the rural communities, have very low income. So our goal is really to make it free of charge for them. Definitely in let's say, given that the truck is only there for a couple of weeks, we don't want to charge people and then train them like for a couple of weeks and then having to leave and not having any sustainable program left for them afterwards. So that's a bit a tricky one, I must admit. And sorry, what's your third question? Right. Yeah, good one. Most of the times there are collaborations with the local community where, for example, if courses are being organized during the week for the kids, for example on Saturday morning as well, then dedicated time slots are also foreseen for the rest of the community, so that they can also make use of the computer, for example, to access government websites or declare taxes or these kind of things. So in that sense, we try to, of course, indeed maximize the time that the truck is being utilized. The good thing about Africa as well is there are a lot of sun. So in terms of operability, the Digitruck is fully autonomous all the time, I would say. That's let's say the way we try to maximize it. I do have to admit we've had cases where, since you're relying on local partner organizations that you try to follow up on and make sure that they are being supported as well to carry out the program. We've had instances in the past where Digitruck turned out to be idle for a couple of weeks or even months because of internal politics in an organization and other things that might go wrong, or the equipment not working anymore and us not being informed on that, for example. So that happens, and so we try to really keep close contact with our partners in order to make sure that that the investment is also producing the best results possible.
All right, thank you. Alina is also, again, adding that the podcast and drama series is also to be found on SoundCloud, so that's also maybe important information. Thank you, Marnik, for presenting your experiences and for introducing us to the Digitruck in Sierra Leone. Can I ask Peter to also join us for this last minute to the front? To wrap up this session, I'd like to ask to you both to maybe give us the most important message that you would like to that you would like us to take with us when we walk out of this conference room today. Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the most important in general is that a lot of what we've heard this morning and a lot of what we are doing in digital education or artificial intelligence enhanced education works. It actually has a very, very positive impact on students, but we should not forget to actually put a lot of human support next to it at this stage, certainly. Otherwise, it doesn't work. That's our experience, is that it is a tool. It's not a means, it is a means to an end, and that end is actually making sure that you have sufficient teachers who can grasp and understand and can explain it to the students. So a lot of promises on digital, but don't forget the human factor. And by the way, that's also where you have to put a lot of effort, training, money into, in order to make sure that it really works. So that was for us really the key learning.
Thank you, Peter.
For me, key message I think would be, since we're repurposing computer equipment and we're sometimes within an organization, our main focus is really on getting as much computers as we can so that we can repurpose them and you know, serve as many individuals and organizations with those computers as we can. It's still technology as such an enabler. We very much invest in and rely on our local partners. What we do is really, I was talking to someone earlier, I referred to our organization as really being a box mover, or at least that part of our organization. We take a computer here, we run it through a process, and then we put it there. And it's really the local partners and everyone that is effectively implementing and is playing a vital role in serving the community directly, that is making the biggest difference there. So let's say that being part one of my claim here. Part two is on the hardware itself. We focus mainly on laptops because that is typically what we get from companies. But of course, if a given project is much better served with smartphones or with tablets or with whatever, even these old cell phones that we used to have, then that is much better than what we can offer them. So I would say if you're developing something and if you're if you think you'd like to introduce a technology solution in your program or in your project, please make sure you first really dive into the need of the local community that you're working with in order to make sure that what you're offering them or what you're enabling is really the best thing you can that they can go for.
Okay, thank you, Peter and Marnik. So I remember believing in the premises of digital tools, but also not forgetting the human factor on it. Also focusing on creating things together. So the hardware is one side, but implementing partners are another important side. And third thing, to always depart from the needs of a project and not just focusing on what you can just offer and provide as an organization as such. Ending this session, I'd like to thank all the speakers, but also the audience today for spending this time with us during this session. I'm also, again, happy to remind you of the hashtag #EdTech4Inclusion to share your experiences and thoughts online on social media. Please also note that the recordings and the presentations of this session can be downloaded on the Educate website and that they will soon be available as earlier addressed. So thanks again. The next session will start within a few minutes and I wish you a very nice rest of your day.